Well, if we're gonna find any ghosts, we better split up.
You're listening to Never Split Up, a horror movie podcast.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Never Split Up podcast. This is episode 76, where we are tackling our first Stephen King adaptation. It is 1976's Carrie. What's going on, Ant? How you doing?
I'm doing good. The clocks were pushed forward an hour the day we're recording, so it's a little lighter later, so I'm coming to life again. So I'm happy. I'm ready to get out of the winter season. I was in a little funk, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah. It's the weather's starting to turn, at least where we live. It's been super windy the last week or so, which I don't love.
I can't stand it.
Me too.
I can't stand it.
Yeah. But no, we're getting into the springtime. It's close at hand, and we figure why not kick off the spring season with Carrie, kick off prom season in a way. And like I said, it's our first Stephen King, so really excited to talk about him and to talk about this adaptation. And I think eventually I want to do kind of my favorite, like, we don't have to do like a full ranking because there's so many, but maybe we'll do an episode of like our favorite adaptations, top 5 or whatever. Yeah, because he just spans so many different subgenres, and he's the king of horror in terms of literature right now. So yeah, I'm really excited to cover this. Before we jump in, do you have anything you wanted to shout out? Or I know we didn't run a poll in a while, so you wanted to kind of touch on that and let people know where they can vote on upcoming polls, because I think you're going to post a couple.
For sure. So last week's episode was The Blackcoat's Daughter, Osgood Perkins feature film directorial debut. Make sure you guys check that episode out. Check it out before you watch, Long Legs and the Monkey, his newer movies. I thought we had a great conversation. And I'm going to post the polls. I've been slacking, but I will get back on. I'm going to post the polls for Scream 3. I'm going to post the poll for The Loved Ones, our favorite plot twists, and Blackcoat's Daughter. I'm going to just get them all out of the way this week. You guys will see those polls go up very soon before this episode comes out. But just keep it on our social media, vote in those polls. We have some fun episodes coming up. And yeah, I'm just so pumped to finally get into a Stephen King adaptation. I can't believe it took us this long.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. We were thinking about it. We're like, wait a minute. I think this is the first time.
I had to think, but yeah.
Okay, and what better way? I mean, the iconic Carrie, again, released in 1976, iconic book released by King, and then an iconic adaptation. It has a remake that was done, which we can definitely talk about at a future date. But for now, we're just going to kind of focus on the original. And yeah, I think that's about it. Again, follow us on social media at Never Split Up Pod. Look for those polls, and thanks everyone for the subscribers on YouTube and our fans on YouTube and everyone. Yeah, thanks so much for all your support, and we can't wait to kind of break through the winter season and get into warmer weather and start talking some fun horror movies. And we have some fun ideas coming up for this month as well. So stay tuned for that. I might even announce next week's episode, which is going to be fun. So stick around for the end of this episode. I'll announce what we're doing next week. It's a brand new concept for the podcast. We haven't done it yet. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. But yes, without further ado, let's get into Carrie. And as always, I'll let you cover the cast and crew and the synopsis.
All right. So like Nolan said, Carrie came out in 1976. It's a classic. The synopsis from IMDb is Carrie White, a shy, friendless teenage girl who is sheltered by her domineering religious mother, unleashes her telekinetic powers after being humiliated by her classmates at her senior prom. It was directed by Brian De Palma. Obviously, it was written by Lawrence T. Cohen and Stephen King. It's a Stephen King adaptation. It's the Stephen King's first novel, and this is his first work that was adapted. So it's very fitting. And it stars the icon, the legend, Sissy Spacek as Carrie White, Piper Laurie, Amy Irving, John Travolta, Nancy Allen, Halloween alumni, PJ Souls. I mean, we're Betty Buckley. We're pretty spoiled with this cast, so it's iconic. And this is one of the first horror movies I've seen, so I'm excited to get into it. Our overall thoughts. It's very, very, very near and dear to my heart.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that about you. That's awesome. I actually don't
Yeah,
remember. I've seen this movie a ton of times growing up. I don't remember the first time I watched it, unfortunately. So that's cool that you have that connection. Awesome.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know that either. This was the first one to be adapted. I wasn't sure
it
kind of the
was.
history
Yep.
of movie adaptations for King. So that's interesting.
It actually put him. The movie put him on the map more than the book. This movie made him a household name going
Gotcha.
forward. So it's kind of fitting how the first. This was a lot of firsts. This
So
movie
this movie
and
was
adaptation. So
do you know if it was like it was pretty well received right away, like from the box office and everything? It was pretty okay.
yes, it was a smash hit. I think the budget was like $1 million and it made almost 40 million. And Stephen King, you know how he is very picky about his
Hmm.
adaptations. I guess at least back in the
Yeah.
day, where it was more. I know now he like promotes a lot, but he actually prefers this to his novel,
Oh, okay.
movie to
That's
his
another
novel, and
good.
that's
That's rare.
very unheard
Yeah.
of for especially Stephen King.
Yeah,
So
especially because then you get The Shining, which comes out a couple
right,
years later, and we know infamously he's not a fan of that movie.
exactly.
What's Kubrick took some liberties with that. So, do you know how closely this resembles the book? Like, does he prefer it to the book because it's so closely related, or do they take some liberties that they don't do in the book? Do you know anything about that?
I didn't read the book, but I believe his major thing was Sissy Spacek and the direction of the
Okay.
movie. But the ending, I do know the ending is different, and he prefers the ending to the movie to the book. I don't know for sure what the book ending is, but I know it's different, and he prefers this ending. But overall, he just thinks it's better than what he. I think that was the first novel he wrote too, so obviously growing pains. But overall, he just thinks this is like amazing and
Yeah.
masterpiece. So he's not alone. Also, Quentin Tarantino and Scorsese think this is one of their favorite movies and favorite horror movies. I think Martin Scorsese, he saw it 3 times in theaters when it came out. So they've always been ripping horror. I know
Yeah.
they're not big on the superhero movies, but they always been ripping our little genre, our horror genre. So that's awesome to hear
Yeah.
too.
Okay, cool. Let's just dive right into our overall thoughts and if we recommend the movie, and
Okay,
then once we get out of the
for
way, we'll
sure.
get into spoilers. Why don't you go first?
Okay, cool. Like I said, guys, like I grew up, my grandpa showed me Jaws and Salem's Lot, so those are near and dear. And my parents showed me Halloween and Scream. But the first one after Halloween, and I think maybe even, I don't know if it was before or after Scream, was Carrie. So this was a big movie in my household, and I adored it the first time I saw it. I think this movie should be like shown in schools, like all over the country to promote anti-bullying. You never know what anyone's going through. It's just a tragic story. But it's also I feel like it's tragic, but it's timeless. This movie's like homaged and imitated endlessly. I feel like it's ingrained in pop culture to the point where whether you're 18 or 90, you know the image of Carrie at prom. So this is very, very, very ingrained in pop culture. And my overall thoughts is this movie is like poor girl and like good for her. Like that's
Yeah.
Carrie is not a villain. I think that De Palma directs the fuck out of this movie. The camera work is next level. I never, I guess, realized when I was younger and watched it. I just was like all like engulfed in the movie. But when I watch it now from like a filmmaking lens, I'm like, how did he do some of these camera shots that he got away with? And the split shots, the split screen, again, that's something that Tarantino uses a lot in his movies. Obviously, he took that from Carrie, but the split screen in this movie is so good, and I think it adds so many layers to the movie. I love it so much. Sissy Spacek, this is her role. She is amazing. Again, I think this is one of the best horror performances, along with Piper Laurie as her mom. They kill it in this movie. I hated even the first time I saw it, I absolutely wanted to like go through the screen and like kill her mom myself. I couldn't stand her, what she was doing to Carrie. I think they both kill it. They were both actually nominated. Like, again, I don't give a shit about awards, but they were both nominated for Academy Awards, and that was very unheard of, especially back in the day for horror. Not many horror movies still don't get respected, but they were both nominated, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I think the acting's A plus. I think the score is very reminiscent of Psycho when De Palma realized that, but he still ended up going with it. I think the score is vital to this movie. The directing's awesome. I think it's just a horror movie that's relatable because it's not just a horror movie, it's a movie about horrific people and people who are intimidated by anything other than like general structure and social norms, and like they're intimidated by someone who's independent and not like them. So I think it's a very relatable movie, and I think it's also one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations. So it has bonus points because it is one of the first horror movies I've seen, but I think this is relatable and required viewing for anyone, horror fan or not, because it is just you relate to the character of Carrie and you just are rooting for her and you just feel if you're a good person, you just feel so bad for what happens at that prom. And it's a movie where you're shouting at the screen, which I also think is a good, communal experience. But yeah, I'm obsessed with it from I saw it when I was a little kid till now, and it's special to me. So it's near and dear to my heart. What about you?
Okay. Yeah, a lot of things you agree with. I feel like I'm not as high as you. I don't think it's like a perfect viewing experience. I feel bad
Okay.
because it's such a classic, like picking apart a classic like
It
this,
is.
because I do really, really like this movie, and I've watched this growing up countless times. I've seen this movie so many times. I was just telling you, it actually has been a while as an adult. I haven't seen this in a few years, so it was nice to go back and watch it again, and it just brings back memories of watching it, growing up as a teenager and stuff. So I don't get me wrong, I do adore this movie and I love it. I don't think I'm as obsessed as you are, and I don't think it's as maybe as
Right.
perfect as you think it is, which is fine. I know it's a classic. I just have some like minor gripes with it watching it now, like as an adult, like that I wished it was maybe a little bit better. I think this movie is definitely came out at the right time. I think coming out in the 70s, just the entire plot of the movie just fits with that time period. I know there's a remake of this movie that's way more recent.
Yes.
I don't think it works mainly because of the times. I think centering a movie around prom and the bullying back then was more kind of fitting for that time period. I mean, prom isn't really, I feel like, as big a deal anymore. I don't know. I don't know if that's just
You don't think the remake works? Sorry, you don't think the remake works?
I
Is what
I
you were saying?
I like the remake for what it is, but I
Me
don't
too.
think it works as well because it's way more
Okay,
recent.
I agree.
So I think that the strength of this movie is it fits into the time period so well. Back then prom was everything for high schoolers, and it was like such a big deal. I
Right.
feel like
Huge rite
nowadays
of passage, right?
kids have so much other stuff going on that it's not really that big of a deal. And I also think bullying was very different back then, so this was kind of commentary on that, but it's still relevant today. So I think the setting
For
helps
sure.
it, but it's still a timeless tale. So that's, I think, a very good strength of the movie. Like you said, Sissy Spacek is awesome. Piper Laurie is awesome. The supporting cast is good enough.
Great.
Those two performances are head and shoulders better than the rest of like the bullies and stuff. But they carry the movie. No pun intended. And yeah, my biggest gripe with this movie is the pacing. I hate to say,
Oh,
the
interesting.
most memorable things about this movie are the opening and once you get to the dance. But getting to the dance is largely forgotten about, and that's because I feel like
Uh-oh.
not a lot happens. I do feel like, we have Carrie White, who's our main character, and it's unique in the fact that she's kind of, I don't call her the villain either, but in conventional sense, I mean, she's kind of the bad guy of the story by the end of the movie, but she's also our main character. I wish they leaned more into that in the middle parts, and we got less of the bullies, kind of their plan and stuff, and them like hanging out, and we got more of Carrie White maybe kind of figuring out her powers or kind of highlighting more of that. So I do wish it more happened in the middle of the movie. That's probably my biggest gripe with this movie is you're sitting there and like you're just kind of waiting for the dance to happen, especially once you're like familiar with this movie. You're like, okay, let's get to those
Well, everyone
iconic
knows the dance
shots,
is the
which
moment.
which
Right, right,
is
right,
is
right.
not really a knock because that just shows how iconic that scene is. I mean, you're just waiting
For
for it, and
sure.
the buildup is just insane. You mentioned the Psycho soundtrack, very reminiscent of the
It's
60s, and
very paid homage for
yes,
sure, yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of that. I I,
Oh,
I
it's so
think it's a
good.
little heavy-handed, but you know me, I'm also
Okay.
not a huge Psycho and Hitchcock guy in general, so maybe that's kind of
We'll
my
have to cover that
bias.
very soon.
Yeah, I know.
I need to talk about
Yeah,
that ASAP.
those
with
are going to
you.
be fun episodes for sure. I almost kind of want to have combined a lot of those movies, not just cover one, just cover like kind of Hitchcock in general and that whole era and time period.
Okay.
I would love to just discuss it like in more general terms with you. I think that would be fun. But no, I do recommend this movie. It's essential viewing for any horror fan. If you're a newer horror fan that likes the newer movies and you're interested in going back to the classics, I know we've covered some great classics on this podcast so far. Like you said, Halloween, the original Halloween is essential viewing. This is right up there. I mean, it's essential viewing. It's shaped so many filmmakers, like you said. It's been homaged so many times, and yeah, this is a certified classic. I just don't think it's like, I hate to say it, I just don't think it's perfect, but it is really solid, and that ending is just whew,
Oh,
so
it's so
good.
good. I can't wait to get into everything that happens. I see what you're saying about how they don't I guess the lead up to the like after the opening scene and then lead up to the prom is very slow burning, going back and forth with the kids. But I also think that it makes it so much worth it because when you see what happens to them, and also the home life with Carrie, I think like the stuff with Margaret, it's very much needed before the prom.
Yeah,
To see how
I agree.
bad her, it's terrible how she's just abused in all areas of life. And I like what you said that she is the protagonist, but she ends up being like the bad guy villain. And the only reason she becomes the villain is because of her home life and the kids. It's not like she's made into that.
Mhm.
She doesn't like just snap out of it. It's just circumstance and shitty people. And
For sure. I think we're
that's
on the
what
same page with that.
society does.
I think
Yeah.
she wasn't born that way with this evil. It was
Right.
definitely created through the trauma from her mother and through the bullies and stuff, for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
And the telekinesis and the powers only come out when she's pushed to those like heightened scenarios and when she is getting bullied or whatever the crazy stuff with her mom. So she doesn't want that to happen, but it's just what happens.
Yeah.
So all right, good. I like that. So we both recommend it. I obviously, think it's one of the classics for a reason. So I'm excited to get into
Yeah,
it.
me too.
What do you think about the poor opening scene with Carrie White in the school?
Yeah, again, this is one.
Plug it up.
Yeah, it's this scene and it's the dance scene that are like the highlights of the movie,
Yeah.
and which is great. I mean, it's the two bookends in the movie, so it gives you a good first impression and also leaves you with a good last impression. But no, I love this scene. It's just so.
It's so
I mean, I
sad.
say I love it, but it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there like.
But
I'm
it's so
already
good,
like
like,
rooting
well
for
acted.
Carrie to kill everyone, like from right off the jump.
Kill these bitches.
Yeah.
Kill these. It's so horrible. You think they're just fucking throwing things at her. I'm like, what are you doing, this poor girl? But it's scary because she was never taught about how the body works in menstruation. Her mom literally tells her that like it's a sin. Like she has her period and it's because she is caused by sin and like locks her in the closet to pray. I'm like, ugh. This poor girl has been who knows how mentally fucked she is because of all this. Her mom, but it's a really heartbreaking opening scene.
Yeah, it is,
Because no one's
especially
there
because you
for her.
get the gym teacher. What's her name?
Yes, I think Miss Collins.
Is it Miss
Miss Collins,
Yeah,
yeah.
Miss Collins.
Yeah, I believe it is.
And she goes to see what's going on, and then she gets to Carrie, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And she slaps her, and she's like, "Snap out!" I'm like, what the fuck?
Snap out of it, bitch!
I was like, Jesus Christ! Nobody is really like taking good care of
That
this
is not
girl.
flying
Yeah.
in today's day
Yeah.
and age.
And then she even admits later on in the principal's office, she's like, yeah, I kind of understand why the girls were doing that because I was like, what do you mean you don't know what a period is? Like, that's kind of weird. So she was even like
That's
doubling
so sad,
down. It's
though,
like,
man.
oh my
Like,
God, man,
yeah.
come on. Like, you're not going to blame the
Like,
mom?
clearly, this girl has some stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's kind of horrible.
She literally thought she
but
was
she
gonna
does
die.
punish them.
Like,
I
it's-
know she's having a full on pain. Like, why am I bleeding out?
Yeah,
Like, what's
that's so
happening?
scary.
That's. Carrie is such a tragic character. I'm telling you, dude, it's so sad. But I like that whole. I think it really sets the tone of the kind of special character that Carrie is. She's not like everybody else. She is this individual, outsider. Not only because of that she's weird, it's because of her home life. So I think it has me like I have her back from the beginning, just because she is from all areas of life. You can tell that she's not supported anywhere.
Yeah, so we get that whole kind of scene, and then she gets dismissed from school. She's walking home
Yep.
from school. She has like even the little kids are calling her creepy Carrie, creepy Carrie. It's like And she
Yeah,
knocks
I
him
want to
down,
fucking
which was
smash those.
awesome. I was like, yeah, fuck that
I
kid.
love that.
Yeah. Question: do you know where this was filmed? This was very reminiscent of Haddonfield. I feel like this looks like
It really
yeah, right
was.
when she's walking down the sidewalk. I know
And
Halloween
I
came
get
out 2
whiplash.
years later. I'm curious if they
Yes.
filmed in similar locations because
I know how because I'm Halloween Encyclopedia that was filmed in
yeah,
Pasadena.
I wonder where this was filmed
I'm
because
assuming this was filmed in California,
yeah.
so nowhere, obviously.
Didn't it look like kind of Haddonfield though? Those streets and the wide
I
streets.
got the
Yeah,
vibes.
yeah, yeah.
I just love 70s horror is I know I love my 90s and 2000s, but 70s, oh,
Yeah.
it's up there. It might be like for the greats and the
Oh
classics.
yeah.
It's like
I think it's not even
you
a
know what I
question.
mean.
70s
It's
produced the
the
most
greats.
iconic greats. Yeah, for sure.
It's so
Yeah.
good. And we have fucking again, like we had PJ Souls like pre-Halloween
Yeah.
in this movie during her thing. I love PJ
Yeah, I'm
Souls so
assuming
much.
he
I
saw
actually
her
met her.
in this movie and just
Well,
because it was 2 years
she
prior.
got
So
this movie. She has that wearing a hat, this fucking red hat in the whole movie, and she got the role because she came back in. I forget. She said she did something with the red hat and came back in, and that's why they cast her. She was only supposed to be on set for 2 weeks, and Brian De Palma liked her so much when she threw her hat at Carrie. He's like, "You're staying. You're gonna be in the whole movie. You're fucking killing this."
her
So
character
I just
cracks
love
me up.
PJ
That
Souls
fucking
so
hat,
much.
man. I mean, how is she one of the popular girls? How isn't she getting made fun of? Like her wardrobe, the entire movie is so funny to me. She's wearing the hat at prom.
She is. She's a scene stealer because I do get cackle like a lot of the times that she's on screen. I love PJ. So I met her and she is such a sweetheart in real life. She'll talk to you for fuck. She'll talk to my parents for 20 minutes, just like a friend and a buddy. She is awesome. I love her so much. But yeah, I think the opening scene sets the stage for the entire movie, which is like this tragic character, and you can tell that nothing is gonna end well in this scenario, especially when you know like what her powers are.
Yeah, and then we get to the home life, and she literally lives in the attic
Not better.
of the house, which is fucked up. And then it gets even more fucked up because you get the confrontation with the mother. The mother. I think we get right before this. We get the scene with her mother Margaret, and she's going to door and asking about teaching kids like Jesus Christ. So we get a little snippet of like how much of a religious freak she is. So when we do get this scene and the first confrontation between Carrie and her mother, you could tell Carrie is like very nervous to confront her. So you know that there's like a really fucked up dynamic going on.
I agree, and I also think this movie doesn't get enough credit or adaptation, and Stephen King for how much cult religion and horror is like played up in the 40 years, 50 years after. Oh my god, it's gonna be 50 years next year. This movie, holy shit! But it doesn't get talked about enough that this movie really put a stamp on the crazy cult religious aspect in horror movies. And I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, yeah, it's a fucking cult. It's crazy. Religion creates crazy monsters, but I think that Piper Laurie really some might say that I think I read when she was reading the script and was doing, she's like, this is gonna be like a comedy campman. Like Brian De Palma's like, no, I got you. Like we're gonna be good. It's over the top, but it's like crazy and scary. Like how much she believes in this crazy stuff and like how everything's a sin and all this. So she kills it. Her eyes alone scare me in this movie.
Yeah, and then like
She's
I don't know, there's
so
something
good.
about her frame, like that big frizzy hair. It's all like kind of I don't know. It's something about it. Yeah.
Like she's a small woman and like I could probably take her down, but I'm scared of her. Like, you know what I mean? Like she just scares me. I feel like she's just a manipulative fucking crazy bitch. She's also a horror alumni. She was in The Faculty in the late 90s, good old Invasion of the Body Snatchers Scream version, Kevin Williamson. But yeah, she kills this role. She does creepy and weird so good. I love it.
And then we get one of the
what do you think about the
fucked
crew?
up scenes is when she gets locked in the closet and you have the Jesus the crucifixion, and she's praying. It's so messed up because this was so effective because it really just highlights in just a few seconds what kind of Carrie's whole life has been. So she's pleading with her mom and it's heartbreaking. And she's telling her mom, like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? We get that whole scene and she makes her kind of repeat, the Bible verses and saying it's a sin. And then she locks her in this closet and Carrie ends up praying for the entire night and then leaves the closet and like ends up thanking her mother. It was like, thank you, mama,
Sad.
gives her a kiss and then goes to bed. It's really messed up how it's like you can just tell how manipulative she's been her whole life. It's really heartbreaking.
And it's even more sad and heartbreaking and scary because it's not like she has a sibling or a dad. It's just her and her mom at home, and then her and these bullies at school. She has no other outlet besides these two,
Yeah.
horrible situations. So she's stuck. And as Sissy Spacek again, just the expressions on her face alone, she doesn't have to be talking to her mom or anything. Just like, I can see her sorrow behind those eyes, and she kills it. It's so sad. It's so very sad, this movie. What do you think about the whole crew, though? Like, I guess Miss Collins, she does reprimand the crew who tormented Carrie, and she punishes them with the classic 70s short shorts exercise detention. Fucking hilarious. Um, and she threatens, like Nolan says, she threatens to like revoke their prom privileges. Which again, I feel like these days kids would be like, okay, fuck prom, I'll go drink wherever and do whatever. But back in the day, it's like, oh my god, prom! Like that is the night. That's the whole high school experience is prom. So, I think it was very clever also that we didn't get to Christine. She was one of her biggest bullies, and she refuses and she gets banned from the crowd. So you have one of the kids who gets banned, and the other crew, they're kind of like, oh, we'll still go, and they like suck it up and like pretend to forgive her. So I think it's smart that we have one character who's banned, so she's like gonna be up to no good, but the rest like pretend to forgive her.
Yeah.
And it also puts Carrie in that weird sense because it's like, do I trust these people or not? And I also think it's smart that Sue is the one who is kind of that gray area. Because I remember the first time I watched it, Sue, I'm like, is she gonna be in on this or not? And you kind of like have that question until the big moment, like throughout the entire movie. So I thought that was a smart kind of, choice. And Tommy too. It's like, is he an asshole or is he not? So I thought that was smart that them two, they were the good people, but it wasn't like given away to us, the audience, or Carrie. Like we kind of always were having our second eye on them.
I agree. No, I definitely agree. I think that was played really well. You get kind of tidbits throughout the movie. You kind of see the look on her face in the beginning when it seems like she kind of feels bad for Carrie, and then you get when Miss Collins confronts them and says, what are you guys up to after they invited her to prom?
What are you?
Yeah, she seems pretty sincere. She's like, okay, no, but you still in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, why are they really doing this though? And then Tommy's character is very gray area. He's like nice at, he sticks up for her with the English teacher, that asshole English teacher who's making fun of Carrie, but then he's like kind of laughing about the whole situation. So they do a good job, I think, of kind of keeping you on your toes. You're not really sure if they're in on it or not. Because it's like, why would this girl, why not go to prom? He's like you said, this and means it's not everything even that. To these kids, and she's just not going to go to help Carrie out. It's a little fishy,
And that's Sue's boyfriend, and she's like, go take someone else to prom. And
I think even Tommy is still an asshole because he's literally like making out with her and stuff at prom. It's like I can understand if they were in on the prank, but the fact that they're not actually kind of makes him a little more scummy because he's like literally kissing her all night. I almost
like the first time I saw it, I'm like, if this Tommy fucker is just in on, I was so like nervous that I was like, if this fucker's in on it, I'm gonna strangle him. But I almost think that like him and Sue are just like meant to be friends, and like once he saw Carrie and that he's like, oh, this is my person. But I guess looking at it now, it's like that's not really nice. I do.
With Carrie, like kissing her and stuff? Did you really think he liked her?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah, I'm still on the fence on that. I don't know if he was just doing it just to make her feel
After
special.
watching it throughout the
the
years, I do think that he was like mesmerized by her at some point. He's like, oh,
and not to knock him, but I feel like the actor maybe could have played it a little better. I feel like it wasn't,
I mean, it's hard to go up with Sissy Spacek, man. It's really hard to stand shoulder to shoulder with her. But I do think it was smart that we were also in the gray area like Carrie. I thought that was very, very smart. What about the other crew? That fucking Chris, like I said, she's actually not allowed for the prom. So she's like on the outs with Billy, John Travolta.
Yeah, they're
my least favorite scene in the entire movie. You know what it is. I think that was tragic when they go and fucking slaughter them. I mean, we need Pittsburgh. For the my god, that was horrible, that scene, and they don't shy away from it. It's really sad, that scene.
They're like the worst people and they're the worst people in this movie. Their relationship is so toxic when the car
it's
scene,
abusive.
Yeah, it's super abusive. he's drinking beer while driving, and then spills it on her, and she calls him names. He starts slapping her around, and then he tries
she,
to
like
get with her, and she pushes him off, and he's like, "Come here!" Like it's super rapey, and then. But then at the end of
and
it,
then she likes the rapiness.
yeah. And at the
I'm
end
like,
of
what
it,
is happening?
She wants something from him, and so she goes down on him. It's very toxic and very abusive and manipulative, and
The most horrible and toxic people ever,
Yeah.
and animal killers. So I'm like, no,
Yeah.
this is where I draw the line. Horrible, 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 horrible. That scene, like, I remember the first time watching that, I was like, why are my parents letting me watch this? And this is horrible. I hated that scene so much.
Yeah, no, fuck her.
But yeah, I fucking hate that bitch. She was in another Brian De Palma movie, Dressed to Kill, which I thought was really good, and she's really good at. I feel like she's like a 70s and 80s actress. I don't know where she went, but she was really good in that movie too. But yeah, so Tommy convinces Carrie to go to prom. She accepts the invite eventually, so she's so excited, but she can't even be she has to like kind of hide it from her mom at the same time and make her own dress. So she's still battling that other whole home aspect. She can't be excited for this rite of passion in school because she has to deal with her mom.
Yeah.
I get the mother-daughter relationship is like the backbone of this movie. Not even the stuff that happens at the prom, but that happens to just so happen to be the most iconic part of the movie. So it's fascinating to me how people remember that, but really the mom and daughter stuff is the part that makes it horror to me.
Oh yeah, I was actually gonna bring that up. We call this a horror movie. I don't think it's horror in the conventional sense because it's not scary in general, but I do think some of the scenes with the mom in the house are probably the closest where we get to horror, besides the blood and people dying at the end, I guess. But it's really not. It's a massacre, but it largely happens off screen. I mean, you get a couple deaths where she kind of, I think the one teacher gets pinned against the wall. But it's mostly
the poor teacher.
Yeah, I know, it's mostly implied.
She gets the worst of it.
Yeah, that they all kind of burn. So I think the biggest horror aspects are in the house with the mother because you have those creepy religious vibes. You have the candles everywhere and all the imagery. With the Last Supper over the dinner table. It's just very very dark. Like I love the whole atmosphere of the house is like very dark.
It's so good.
Wood grain like house, like older house falling apart. Which, was kind of foreshadowing to the end of the movie. But yeah, I do agree with you, though, that kind of leans more into kind of the creepy vibes more than even the dance.
Yeah, it's the psychological horror is what the mom, that torment is all psychological horror. I feel like the stuff of the dance is iconic horror imagery because it's Carrie and blood. But that's like the good for her moment. That sequence.
Oh, dude, the scene when she comes home from the dance and her mom is behind the door. So scary. It gets me every time.
I saw that as a little kid and I was like, holy fucking shit, I'm so scared right now. It freaked me the fuck out. But even before she goes to prom, her mom, like, because she starts seeing evidence, obviously, of the telekinetic powers. Because we should say, like, when they get into fights, like, Carrie, when she gets upset, she even, like, throws her mom, like, under the couch. Like, her mom sees that she has these abilities, and she calls her a witch from all this, too. So, like, her mom is just nonstop putting her down. I'm like, bitch, do you see what your daughter can do? Like, back the fuck up. But it's just, it's her home life is just really like the backbone of this movie, and it's so horrible. It almost makes me think of like how many like people have that kind of home life where these like parents are in these like religious cult, and they're like, this is how it's done. That's it. So it's scary. That's the scary part.
Funny you say that. My wife has been obsessed with this Ruby Frankie case. I don't know if you've heard of that case. She was like an influencer.
Oh my god, it's horrible.
She got arrested, and they're coming out with some of the horror stories that she did to her kids, and I think that was in Utah. I think they were like kind of Mormons, but still, I mean, it's just it's
I think
really
she thought like her kids were demons or devils,
something like that. Yeah, like they're doing it
like
to like cleanse them because they were demons. Yeah, so it's very true. It happens in real life, and that's what's kind of creepy about it. And that's what I, for those of you who don't know me, I'm not a very religious person, but I think I've said this on this podcast. The religion cult shit is what gets me the most. And it's not because I believe in every single thing I see. It's because I believe that people are capable of thinking that way and acting that way. And it's so creepy to me that people can be.
Well, they get so brainwashed and wrapped up in it.
Yeah, so
like a Ruby Frankie or something like that.
So that is what kind of gets me. And it's like, oh man, that's scary.
And that's why when you see the home life stuff, some people can be like, oh, this is like crazy, but it's not that crazy when you hear some stories that come out in real life.
Yeah.
Like I could see someone doing that to their daughter. But
oh yeah, I mean, there's stuff that happens to her in this movie, while heartbreaking, is totally believable. I mean, we've seen it like
Oh,
in
for
real
sure.
life that's happened. So yeah, it's totally believable for sure.
And I just love how Stephen King uses like the supernatural, like telekinetic, just to like tell this really human story. At the end of the day, I
Yeah,
think
I
it
know. I
is.
wanted
Yeah.
to touch on that. I mean, obviously we're two men, but this really
Oh
is a
yeah, yeah,
great movie for kind of women's empowerment. You know, you like you said, the one takeaway is good for her. I think he uses her transition into womanhood and how she gets her powers
Mhm,
when she gets her period. I think it's awesome, and it's an awesome metaphor, and I think it's really
for sure.
like you said, it stands the test of time, and it's kind of really clever way to kind of explain those themes. I think it was really interwoven very beautifully, especially by the director too for the movie.
I 100% agree. I mean, you can even go to like the extent of like when she is coming into her own, she's literally fully covered in blood. So all the metaphors with that, she came into her womanhood by the end of the prom scene. So there's so many little. I mean, you could write a paper on this movie. That's how fascinating it is. But I just go for it just to see Carrie. And it's so sad because let's get into the prompt because even like the people that she's wrecking havoc on, they weren't even laughing at her for the most part. So it's so it makes it
Yeah,
even more tragic because her mom instilled in her, I guess the iconic line in the movie, they're all gonna laugh at you.
yeah,
They're all gonna laugh at you. She instilled that in her daughter's head so that she couldn't even enjoy this big moment to where after so then she saw that these few people that she thought she could trust now obviously she couldn't, but she took that and her mom and just projected it on everyone when in reality most of the people at the prom they were horrified too by what happened, which is just makes it so much more sad.
yeah. I mean, they were horrified, and even beforehand, when she wins, there's some shots where they
They're
scan to
so
the crowd.
happy.
They're genuinely clapping for her and happy.
Right,
They're not pointing and
right.
laughing. So yeah, it was really just a couple of bad apples who ruined it for everyone and killed like everyone. It was obviously the mom is what kind of set her frame of mind.
Right,
But yeah, it
right.
was really like most of the school that was there were not at all making it like a joke. So I agree.
And that's where I think it comes into play where like obviously like bullies don't have power, but some people like you see these stories where these bullies like have these effect on kids and they're even like hurting other people or hurting themselves. So like they do have an impact, even if the whole majority or the mass doesn't fit in
Yeah.
that, stereotype.
You're
It
so right
does have that
because
effect.
we hear this all the time. I'm sure they still talk about it in school, especially nowadays. Don't bully. You never know what someone's going through at home. I mean,
Right. Be kind. Right.
this is like the
This
best
is the ultimate be
example.
kind. You don't know
Yeah. So
what's happening.
they really should show this movie because you really never know
I,
what's
I
going
told
on.
I think it should be required viewing
Yeah.
in every like I don't know whatever they start middle school maybe I don't know these days what's going on, but it is sad because a couple bad apples can have that mass effect
I
unfortunately.
mean, again and
Um,
again, it's
yeah, and it
come
happens,
true
sir.
time and time again. We talk about school shootings and Columbine and stuff. I mean, kids that feel like
Exactly.
outcast, they don't feel like that from everyone making it. It's usually just like a few
Right.
people that make them feel that way, and then it's usually their home
But
life
it's
too. So it's so
exactly.
true and so
But it's the
real.
few people like in Carrie that don't know when to stop. They just keep pushing and pushing and pushing to where there's no return. And clearly, there's no point of return once the prom scene
Well,
happens. So,
it's so fucked up because they blame Carrie for the punishment that they had to endure when they
exactly.
learned nothing. I mean that teacher was trying to do the right thing by giving them suspension, and then by suspending what's her name was it Sue?
Christine, I think Chris.
Not
Chris
Sue,
was
Chris. Sue was
yeah.
the other one. Yeah, I always get those two
Mhm.
confused. But yeah,
Sue's the good girl.
it literally did nothing, and it made it even worse because then they just blamed Carrie for her not going to the prom, which is so fucked up. It's like, have you learned nothing? Like, you have no empathy
No, because
whatsoever.
they're the most self-involved people
Yeah.
of all time. It's horrible, but unfortunately that's how people are like.
Yeah. And real quick, before we get to the actual dance and kind
Yeah,
of
I
the
want to
murder
get
of
to
it
the
all,
dance.
I think the best scene of her home life is where it all comes to a head when they have the dinner scene and she tells her mom that wants to go to the prom and she was asked by a nice boy named Tommy. I think that
Right.
was an amazing scene, and
It's
it all comes to a head. It's very intense. Very it reminds me of Pearl a lot. The dinner scene in Pearl. I feel like Ty West definitely
I think Pearl
took
for sure.
some yeah. So it's
I meant to bring that up in our Pearl episode, but I saw Carrie all
oh
over that
yeah,
scene.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen this movie, so watching
Yeah.
it Probably since the first time I've seen Pearl, I made the connection right away. I was like, oh my gosh, they definitely did that intentionally with Pearl. It was like so reminiscent.
That's why I feel like this movie, like people don't even realize how much it's homage. Like it's in pop culture, but it's paid respected to in so many different subtle ways. Not even just in horror. I feel like in film in general, but I think that's where I feel like the timeless quality and it is iconic. But I agree, couldn't agree more. I love that dinner scene. I feel like that could have been like the for your consideration scene for both of them
Yeah.
to get them nominated. It's so good. Um, and it's not that scene's not over the top. It's just a conversation between a mother and a daughter, and the mom just is not accepting that her daughter wants to live not a normal life, but she wants to have fun. She wants to be a kid. She wants to do kid things. She wants to be a teenager. And her mom is just denouncing everything because of some repressed trauma that she's gone through or whatever. She just can't accept reality. And it's so sad that she's making her daughter pay for, like you said, her sins or what she believes are her
And
sins.
it's extra sad too because Carrie, after everything she's gone through her whole life, she wants her mom's approval. Like she didn't have to
100%.
confront her mom and tell her she's going. She could have snuck out of the house, I'm sure. But
Right.
she like was honest with her mom and was like, "I want your approval to do this. Like it means a lot to me." And it's just so heartbreaking because you're sitting there, you know what the mom's answer is going to be, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure
She's
Carrie
like,
knows
fuck
as
you.
well. But she's like has this little sliver of hope that maybe her mom will kind of come to her senses. But no, it's like,
It's
girl, you have to just you're not gonna get the approval. Your mom is just batshit crazy.
And we'll get to it after I want to get to the prom, but I like that you brought that up because it makes it more tragic because after all of that, after all she's put through, she still loves her mom so much at the end of the
Yeah,
day. So even literally at the end of the movie when her mom stabs her, she's just so heartbroken by what she has to do and that she has to kill her. She loves her. So it's just the Carrie is probably one of the most tragic characters, honestly, in horror. The more you think about
yeah.
it, so it's just sad that she can't. She has no one on her team, and the only one who's really there for her is knocked out at the prom, and the other one's thrown out, mistakenly because there was a whole misunderstanding. But yeah, she has no one really at the end of the day.
Yeah, so let's get to the dance scene.
Yeah,
We
I love that. I love
she's
the dance,
it's again, it's like you know what's coming and she's on top of the world. She's having a
dude.
great night.
The build up though, the build
The
up
build up
of this. You
is
can't. I know you have pacing issues, but the build up at the prom is like, oh, it's A plus 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 plus
I
plus. I feel
all
like.
right. Again, not to be too critical. I like the build up overall in general, but I do feel like right before the bloodbath happens, it is a
Uh,
little excessive with like the slow-mo shots when you get
oh, you
Sue
do.
like
I feel like
figuring
that's
out
classic Seven.
the
Oh, I
the
love
blood
that.
and
I
stuff.
was.
I was
Oh,
like, you get it, and then you get it again, and then you get it again. It's like, okay, let's come on, like let's go.
well, I do think for back in the day it was like showing that like I guess I'm not telling like people back in the day like dumb audiences, but it was like showing for a fact that Sue was not in on it, like letting the audience finally
Yeah.
know. I feel like that was the
No,
big
I
like
like
the
that. It
whole
was. I just feel like
dramatic.
it was
Yeah,
played out
yeah.
a little too.
It was very
much.
dramatic.
Yeah,
It was very
it
dramatic.
was.
But I don't know. I like it. I like it. And I just get so mad with Miss Collins. I'm like, oh, you're reading the room wrong, Miss. She's trying to be a good person.
It's such an
And
interesting time period, like you said, especially for horror. You have these filmmakers who, grew up on these older films, like from the '60s and stuff. So you can see the bleed effect that it has into kind of the
Yes.
'70s and even maybe even the early '80s, and it's pretty interesting to see because that was like again straight out of an older movie from this like the early '60s, but yeah,
Oh,
it
for
was very
sure.
melodramatic and the slow.
I feel like I like that I think De Palma took aspects from film in the past and at the time try to because I feel like this movie it's not sexualized too much, but it does talk about these themes of sex and womanhood and empowerment. So I think he kind of blends like the classic tropes like that, like the
yeah.
over the top slow motion, but he also tackles some pretty crazy topics, especially for 1976. So I really feel like people going to the theaters here for the first time, like, whoa, this is some new stuff we're seeing. Like, this is some new topics.
No,
I
you're
feel like
right.
he kind
It
of
is
blended
it is a
very
good blend
well.
because you do get a lot of aspects from the '60s, and then you see as we get into the '80s, you see a lot of '80s movies kind of take aspects from Carrie as well. So it's like a nice mix
Right.
of like he was on the cutting edge of a lot of this stuff that movies copied into the next decade, but he was also kind of taking from the past as well. So in the end, it kind of makes it kind of like a nice mix between the '60s, '70s, and '80s when you see kind of
Yeah,
the '80s
for sure.
elements in there. So
Yeah, I think he directed the fuck out of it. So what would you do? Would you vote for yourself for prom? I want to know.
no, I didn't even go to senior prom, so I can't really say.
You didn't? Yeah, you did. Did you
No,
not?
I went to junior prom. I went with you guys to
I-
junior prom. I wasn't there at
I
senior
didn't
prom.
realize you didn't go to senior
No,
prom.
I went to
Really?
I went to the after party. I went
Okay. All right.
yeah,
you hung out with us
yeah,
after.
I hung
Okay. I was
out.
like, I know you were there somewhere. What the
Yeah.
fuck?
No, I wasn't actually there at the senior prom. So I was asking Jackie, did we even do like kings and queens of prom? I don't even remember that. At least for the junior
I
prom.
think we did, but I don't think we voted for it. I think it was like selected by like the committee or so. I don't
Okay.
remember voting.
Yeah.
I really don't remember.
Because
voting.
again,
I don't remember.
I
Voting.
feel like again, like back in
I
the
know we
70s,
had
it
it.
was such a big
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
You see it in like
Yeah.
these older movies, but nowadays it's like not even really.
No,
Yeah, I don't think it's very relevant. Yeah, so. But no,
I do
probably
think
would
it's
not.
sweet. I would not either, obviously, but I think it's sweet because obviously he's trying to
Oh,
boost. She's so excited.
Yeah.
She's excited in the moment.
it's a
and
big
she's even
moment
like,
for her
no,
to kind of
yes,
vote for herself and put herself out there. I mean,
agree.
again, it's like it's so heartbreaking because she has the time of her life at prom. He makes her feel comfortable. He seals it with a kiss. They dance, and then she votes for herself. The
Yeah.
Carrie from
And
the beginning of the movie would never even
She would never
think of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
And it's not even that he convinces her. I think it's just like the way he rationally makes her look at herself to be like, yeah, I am worth
Yes.
it, and I should be. So and it's like in the moment, I'm like, yes, girl, do it. But like in the back of your head, the whole audience like, don't do it because you're feeding into their plan. So it's just the conundrum there is so good. But yeah, I agree. It's like an empowerment moment for her for sure.
yeah.
But
All right, well, let's
fucking
get
fuck
to
with
it.
the
Let's get to
votes.
the iconic shot of her with the flowers and
it's
kind of
so
waving
good.
to everyone, and then all of a sudden, yep.
Dude, Sissy Spacek kills the fuck out of this moment. Her reaction once the blood goes on her,
Yeah.
it's so good. So like Nolan said, there's a slow build up. Like they win, they walk up, it's all this dramatic music. They're so happy, and it's a slow building tension because Sue, you can, and this is also the Sue's so happy, which I think Sue is such an underrated character in this movie because she really does. She's like such a good person. Like she wants to see
Yeah.
Carrie.
Her boyfriend's kissing
be
Carrie
happy.
on stage, and she doesn't care.
I know, and she's like, "Yes,
yeah.
girl. Good for you,
Get it,
girl."
yeah.
Get it. But she's slowly realizing that these fuckers are up to no good. The other classmates, the bullies, and Chris is there. And she's like Nolan said, she very slowly, very, very slowly realizes that they're holding the bucket above her. And then it's also sad because Miss Collins, she thinks that Sue is trying to ruin the moment. I think she might think Sue like, whatever, got jealous or whatever, like, oh my god, she's up there with my boyfriend. But it's such a misread, and the person who's trying to stop it and help her, Miss Collins, literally throws her out of the prom.
Yeah.
And I feel like Miss Collins should have like at least followed up and like, let me take a look under there to see what she was doing. But she just immediately goes back to celebrating Carrie, which I get too. But I'm like, so many like meaning well. These two people who are trying to do so well and mean and so well for Carrie, they just fucked it up. And yeah, they're up there waving and celebrating, and then we get the pig's blood shot. I mean, every fucking movie I feel like references this. I mean, every movie. Scream references it, every movie references it, but Carrie gets pig's blood dumped on her from the bucket, and Sissy Spacek's facial acting in the scene, I don't know how she did it, but I feel like that should I don't even know who won the Oscar that year, but that should have won her the Oscar if every other scene didn't, because she kills it with that reaction. And my heart breaks every time it happens. It's iconic.
Yeah.
It's iconic shit, dude. That shot, the bloody dress. Oh, it's so good. It's so fucking good. How do you feel? How did that work for you?
Yeah, it's so good. And then there's so many shots. You can't even just pick one. There's so many shots of and then because then you get the lights go out and you get that red glow with that look in her eyes. That shot is probably my favorite, but
Dude,
there's so many different
red
shots.
and horror.
Yeah, I know.
When she looks up and her eye, I'm telling you, her eye acting, she needs to win. Her eyes need to win an Oscar because it's so good. She shuts the doors. And this is where the split screen comes in. I think De Palma fucking nails it because you get to see different aspects of the gymnasium. You're not just focused on Carrie. You're focused on the classmates too. It's just the way it splits. It's almost like her powers too, or her telekinesis is splitting. So I think it's so expertly directed. But Oh, that shot's so good. It gives me chills. It's one of the most iconic shots in horror history. Her and that blood.
It is. It's iconic. The whole time, I can't help but think though, because the two main culprits get away.
They make it out just
They
in
get
time.
out just
Yeah,
in
they make
time,
it out
and then
just in
they're
time.
watching.
Before she shuts the doors.
It's
Yeah.
it's almost poetic because they have to watch the horrors that they created, and they have to watch all of
Exactly.
their classmates and teachers and friends get essentially murdered and burned alive. And
Because of
you're
what they did to her.
rooting for them to die like with everyone, but at the same time, it's
know.
almost extra cruel that they escaped and got to
I know.
watch everyone. Then obviously they get theirs afterwards when she leaves, but it's even more like, oh my god, that is fucked up. It's like, damn.
And it's such a good commentary. Like once someone's pushed to their limit and they snap, they just see red. Because
Yeah.
like we said, those other students and whatever teachers and faculty members, they weren't laughing at her. It's just that's what she saw. When
Mhm.
she snaps, that's what she sees is everyone laughing at her. And she's like, fuck you all, you're all about to die.
Yeah, she hears her
But it's
mother.
so
Her mother's in her head.
Yep.
Yeah, saying they're all gonna
Yep,
laugh at
it's
you.
so
Yeah.
true. I feel like what happens in real life, if someone snaps, it's like they're seeing red,
Mhm.
and it's gonna happen. So it's just it's so sad because obviously those people don't deserve to die, but it's just gonna happen. You still have that good for her moment. It's just she's killing everybody there. The poor teacher gets the worst of it, and she was the only one looking out for Carrie, besides the opening scene when she slapped her. You know what I mean? The whole time,
Yeah.
she gets the worst death in the gymnasium, and she was so happy for Carrie. So it's so sad. I feel like De Palma was like, "Fuck it, we're going there."
Yeah. No, I think this is what makes it iconic. The fact that she wasn't
Yeah.
like singling out the bullies.
Right.
It was just a massacre. It was
Everybody,
everybody.
right.
And I think that's what shocked probably audiences and theaters when it came out. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why it's kind of iconic almost 50 years later. Because
Agreed,
she does not
100%.
care. I mean, everyone. It was, yeah.
And this guy who's her crush now, like looking out for her, he gets like done right away. It's like she sees. I think it is a little funny that he like is out of it from like the bucket.
Yeah,
on
I
his
think
head.
he just
It
got
could
knocked
happen.
out. I don't think he actually died,
It
but
could.
he definitely
It could
burned
happen.
with the
I
rest of them.
believe in the remake, it's a little more aggressive. And there's actually like blood coming out of
The
his
remake,
head, so, like, isn't
yeah,
burned.
I
Yeah.
was trying to remember the remake. I feel like the remake, this scene, I do feel like she targets more people. Am I incorrect in saying that? And it's
I
a little bit more targeted. Everyone ends up dying, but I feel like there is a little bit
Yeah.
more of like that slasher element where you get individual deaths.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. And again, what I'll say is I'm someone who, just quickly, we'll cover the remake one day. I did enjoy the remake. I thought it was fun, but I think the only thing it really did to differentiate itself is like pump up the blood.
Yeah.
So I feel
It was pretty
like
much a
at the end
shot
of
for
the day,
shot. Yeah, they didn't really do
it's a
anything different.
pale, yeah, it's a pale remake because it pales in comparison because it doesn't really try to stand beside Carrie. It just tries to do the same thing, but be like, oh, it's 2013, so we're gonna bloody it
Yeah.
up. So I feel like it's fun, but it doesn't touch this. It does not touch this at all.
No, it's not. It doesn't. It feels less like a remake, and it feels more like a play. Like these characters are like
It almost
playing
feels like
the original characters, and it's
yeah,
like an
yeah.
homage. But it's
It's
just,
like trying to be an homage upgrade, but it's none of the above. It just has some extra blood and kills, like you said. Because I don't remember, like I remember it, but I don't. But this
Yeah.
movie, I remember every shot.
yeah,
And I even like. I mean, again, there's a sequel to Rage Carrie 2, and it's like prime time like 90s slasher, and I do have a soft spot for that because I mean she fucking like throws CDs into people to kill them, so I think it's fucking amazing. But I mean, again, that's like hokey fun, but this is the definitive Carrie adaptation. But yeah, I think the massacre works so well, and not only because of Sissy Spacek's, again, the way she looks and does the telekinesis is amazing, but De Palma's acting. I mean, not De
Yeah.
Palma's directing with the split screen is just fucking.
No,
it's A+.
yeah, I
I
agree.
love him.
yeah.
It's
I
so
agree
good.
because you it keeps Carrie like focused. Like
Right.
it lets him kind of play and do these different shots around the gymnasium, but she's in focus the whole time, and you get to see her kind of controlling things in real time, which is really
I don't know
cool.
how the fuck he filmed this and pulled it off. Instead, I don't know how the fuck he did it.
Yeah.
It's so good. With the limited resources, it's so fucking good. But I do like my one thing every time I'm like, I guess it's the point of the movie, I'm like bummed when Tommy gets not like he's taken out right away. I'm like, fuck, he can't even, he's not there to help her. But it's not about that. It's about
Yeah. She
Carrie
doesn't need
taking
help.
control.
No, she's good.
Yeah, she doesn't exactly. So I'm like, all right, I get the point of the movie, but I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, so then we get, her, she leaves, she ends up killing Billy and Chris. They're in the
Hell
car.
yeah, I love that car
Yeah,
scene.
they try to run her over, and she kind of just makes them.
I don't know again how he filmed that, the way they jerk right around her.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was a cool that was a cool effect.
Yeah.
But
I think
they're
it
out
looked
right
like
there. I'm so
miniatures.
happy.
I think they used miniatures in that
I don't know
shot.
what the fuck they did.
Yeah.
I would love to watch the special features on my Blu-ray, but it's so good.
So that was kind of like
happy.
it was okay. I kind of wish they got a little bit more of like a climactic, like slow death.
Like
maybe she could have confronted
face to
them.
face,
Yeah,
maybe?
Yeah,
Okay,
but it
yeah,
was
yeah, okay.
it was unceremonious. But it was
like, fuck you guys,
again. It
peace.
was more. It was impactful the fact that they saw the ramifications of what they did. So that
I'm
was
happy
kind
you
of
brought
what
that up.
made it fine that they just died a quick death.
Yeah. Because I feel like when they were looking, they're like, what the fuck did we do? Like, you're right. I never thought about it from that aspect that they created everything that all of them, they're witnessing what they created.
Yeah.
Right
It's
outside
like, now
the
do you
windows. I think
fucking
it's
get
almost
it?
smart. Yeah, I think it's smart that they they were able to get out of the gymnasium to see it happening.
Especially John Travolta's character. Was he even in high school? Like, was his?
No,
he
I
was,
feel like he wasn't.
graduated. Like, he wasn't even.
He wasn't at. I don't know if he was in high school, but he wasn't at that school.
Yeah,
I know that.
he just got
he
like a
wasn't part of
BJ,
that
so he's
school,
like, all right, I'm going along with it. Yeah. So
I'll help you out, girl. I'll kill some pigs and go. I'm like, oh, horrible character. I hate him. I hate him.
And then we get obviously the kind of the resolution of the movie. He goes back. Like I said, it's
Dude,
the
her walking up to that
creepiest
house, that
shot.
shot.
Yeah.
Oh, when she walks all bloody into the house, it's so fucking iconic. It's so good.
And then you have the candles everywhere. That creeps me out too. Like the candles
and the
are on
music
the bed.
too. It's like the religious music that's playing when she goes in the house. The score, I'm like, oh, I get chills every time. But oh, you're so right when her mom is like standing in the corner the whole time. Even when she goes to take a bath, her mom's in the
She's
corner
still
until
there.
she gets out.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is
She
horrible.
hasn't moved
I
yet.
remember I was actually covering my eyes. I remember being a little kid and be like, oh no, cover my eyes at the mom, because that freaked the fuck out of me. But it's just so sad seeing her in the tub, just like with the blood everywhere. It's just And then when she comes out, it's so sad because when she sees her mom, she's like, "Mom, you were right." I'm like, oh, this is not the lesson I take away from this girl. It's so sad. Ugh. And then I like the whole her mom was like explains to her like when she was conceived, she was like, your dad was my husband was drunk, and she's like, but I liked it. It's like, what a sexually repressed woman that she can't just accept that, religion's not everything and like be you. But
you thought it
just
was
so
going to go a
sad.
very different way, and they were going to try to make her way more sympathetic and that she was raped.
Right,
but,
like a victim.
Yeah, like a victim.
Exactly.
But no, it was not. At least I didn't get that. I mean, maybe she was because she didn't want it, but I don't know.
She did. She's like, I liked it.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a gray area, and she kind of doubled down right afterwards. So you're like, okay, yeah, no, fuck this lady. And even if it was, I mean, it's still no excuse.
No, for everything she's done to her daughter.
So yeah, no, it's not even. They were trying.
She literally she's like, I wish I got rid of you once you were like. She says some harsh fucking shit. It's really bad. But then she pretends to like console Carrie and like hug her, and then she literally stabs her in the back, like she's done her whole entire life. Oh, it's so sad. But Carrie's like, fuck this. So she like with her telekinetic powers, I love it with the whole flying the knives into her mom.
And again,
it's so good.
she's not even retaliating. It's to the very end. It's self-defense. She's like
100%.
she's the look, and again, Sissy Spacek, even in this scene, where after she falls down the stairs, the look in her eyes, she's huddled in the corner and she's terrified right now. She doesn't want to do this, but the mom raises her,
she
her
doesn't
arm
stop.
again
The mom doesn't
to
stop.
try to kill her, and it's out of self-defense. And obviously the imagery of the mom getting kind of crucifixed to the doorway.
Jesus.
And it looks exactly like the Jesus in the closet. I mean, it's so it's
my
perfect.
favorite part of that is how she's smiling as she's dying because she's excited because she finally gets to see this next chapter. She believes that she's going, oh, praise God, I'm going there. It's so good. Piper Laurie's so good. But it's so tragic because, like you said, Carrie, she's only doing it out of necessity. Up to that point, even after she's stabbed by her mom, she wants her mom there because that's all she knows in life is that upbringing with her mom. So I'll never. This is one of the most tragic stories. But yeah, it's so sad, but it's so well acted and so well directed. Again, those two, I feel like they should. Again, who knows? we're not even probably talking about who won the Oscar that year. That's why Oscars don't matter. Them two, we're talking about them 50 years later. It's so fucking good. But yeah, her mom dies, and then after that, she literally kills herself because she gets so upset with her ability. She like the house collapses on her, so she takes herself down too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was going to ask you
that's
about
so
that,
sad.
like the house collapsing. What did you think of that? How do you think the movie ended? Carrie's
I
ending.
thought I think the only way, unfortunately, for it to end was for Carrie to end herself because of everything. It's sad, but I think that was the whole, through line of the story. That's the only way it was meant to end. She's bringing down everything she knows with her, and she's just ending it all. It's very sad because I wish she could go on, but she wouldn't have gone on anyway, even if she survived because of everything that happened. So I feel like she came into her own, and then she was even still life still disappointed her and life still was like harsh to her even when she came into her own ability and power and womanhood. It was all just not enough, so she brought it all down, decided to end it, but she ended it on her own terms with the house, so I'll give her that.
Yeah. I'm just
But
looking up
it's still sad.
1977 Oscars because I'm curious.
I want to, yeah, who the
Faye
fuck
Dunaway won for Best
Okay, well,
Actress.
Faye,
A movie called Network. And
well, I don't know that
the
movie, but I know
supporting
Faye
actress
Dunaway.
from Network also won, Beatrice Straight. I don't know who that is. I know who Faye Dunaway is, so they won over.
Sorry, but Carrie is much more long
Did
lasting.
they get any
Network.
other nominations? I'm just curious because you
I
brought
think
it
it
up
was
how
just,
we're talking about it.
I don't know if the director did, but I know them two did.
Yeah, I don't see.
I think it was just them two. But I mean, Brian De Palma fucking killed this movie. I think before this, the one who
The
got like
Omen was nominated
director.
for Best Music.
Oh fuck you. Oh well, I mean,
Yeah.
that should have fucking won. Again,
Yeah.
dude, horror does not get enough credit.
Who won for
We don't have to talk. Even this year, we got
A
another
Star
bummer
Is
with
Born?
the, who didn't win.
That's like kind of that's what.
That's one of the classics. But again, even this year, like Demi Moore, girl, where was her flowers for that? I mean, she won every award besides the because they rely on it, but they don't want to award it, which makes me fucking hate the Oscars. But anyway,
Yeah, and then what did you interpret this? I mean, it's not really interpreting. It's just kind of what did you feel about Sue at the very end of the movie? Poor Sue. I mean, because you're
Poor
happy
Sue.
she kind of makes it out.
She's the
but
sole survivor.
She's the sole
Yeah.
survivor, and now, especially the way her mom's talking
She's
about it,
fucked.
like, oh yeah, she's young enough, she'll forget about it. It's like, what do you mean? She's like 17 years old. She's not gonna forget about it. You
That's
make it sound
so
like she's like
dismissive.
4. Yeah, we're just gonna move away and forget this ever happened. But no, like, so she's gonna be fucked up her whole
Dude,
life.
I love this final sequence with Sue. It's so fucking good because I mean, clearly now she's royally fucked up, but I just put again, the first time I saw it did freak me out when she goes to visit Carrie's
Yeah.
grave and we find out it's a dream. But my parents told me, like, when it came out in theaters and like when the first time they saw it, this jump scare was like the jump scare to end. I know it's kind of silly now, like looking at it in today's lenses, but this jump scare was like the jump scare to end all jump scares. And it's so sad when she goes to the grave and it's like Carrie burns in hell. These fuckers have. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I know.
it's horrible.
She's still getting
But
picked on even after death.
I know she's still getting hate
Yeah.
in death, which is horrible. But I think Amy Irving as Sue kills it in this scene. And there's a fun fact after the jump scare when Carrie's hand pops out, she comes back and she's screaming. And her mom in the movie is her mom in real life, so they got her mom to play her mom.
Yeah.
And apparently she was screaming so well and like acting so frantic that her mom yelled her name Amy, like, Amy, are you okay? But her name is Seuss, but the music covered it up
Oh.
because her mom was traumatized by how the actress was acting
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
scene. She was freaked out. I'm like, oh my god, I love that. I love that bit of trivia. But I think it's a great way to end it. I think it punches it up. It's a good horror movie ending, but it's a good, like, tragic ending where, like, the events had effects on the person who ended up surviving and who meant to do well the whole time. So it's a cool, like, horror movie, like, pop out ending, jump scare ending, but it's also in line with the whole tone of the movie. So I think it worked.
I don't even really understand, because now that I'm thinking about it, it was a dream sequence, but I'm assuming that's a real sign, like for sale sign. And
Oh, for sure.
so, like, how
For
did
sure.
people even know that it was Carrie's fault? Because all the witnesses died. So, like, you know what I
True.
mean? It's almost like, how did they even know she caused everything? Because the thing burned. It was just a tragic of.
It goes
You
back
know.
to who you're going to blame. You're going to blame the outsider. That's just the name of the game.
Yeah,
You're
but
gonna blame
I
the
wonder
one who
how
was
people
never
even like
fitting.
pinned it on her, because it was literally just, like a building burned down, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Let's blame the religious freak. Let's blame the.
Yeah.
I think it's just a commentary on like who you're gonna blame. You're just gonna blame the freak, quote unquote freak.
yeah,
So it's sad.
yeah, it is,
It's so
and the
sad.
fact that the house literally like doesn't just collapse, but it goes underground and it's like
Mhm.
sinks into the ground, like they are going towards hell.
Goes
So
to hell.
yeah, Jason goes to hell.
It's so sad. It's so good though. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually like talking about this
So you
movie.
think she's dead? Carrie's dead
She's
for
dead.
sure. Yeah,
She's dead.
yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah,
it's a classic for a reason, dude. This is fucking.
yeah.
This is 70s classic.
Okay,
This is
there we
as good as
go.
it
That
gets.
was 1976 Carrie, Stephen King adaptation, our first one. I hope you guys
His
enjoyed.
first one.
His
Yeah.
first one, yep. I hope you enjoyed this episode. That was a lot of fun, yeah. So without further ado, let's talk about our never split up moments, which I did not think of, so I'm going to think of in the moment.
I'll let you go first because I slacked to a post in the poll, so I want you can have the advantage for
Okay.
this one.
Why don't you do a quick rundown? I feel like we haven't in a while. Just kind of tell our newer
Okay.
audiences what the never split up moment is while I think of a moment.
Yeah, guys. So every week after we cover a movie, Nolan and I we come up with this never split up moment. Obviously, the name of our podcast, Never Split Up, and it's pretty much the moment that we feel is a dumb moment, whether a character does it, a protagonist, a villain, just a dumb moment in the movie. It could be in a slash movie, someone splitting up, but it could be something not as generic as that. It's just a dumb moment in a movie. And you guys vote every week, and whoever agrees with more gets the advantage to go first the following episode. So let's hear your moment for Carrie.
There's so many. I mean, you can almost go to every single every single character besides Carrie and pick a moment, because
know.
these people are just bad people and they make not only stupid decisions, but they make just really poor decisions character-wise. I'm torn. I kind of want to go with probably not a moment that's going to win, but the moment for me that I was actually like, the whole reason we came up with this segment was, there's a moment where you're yelling at the TV for a character to do something different. Believe it or not, we didn't even talk about this scene, but it's the moment where Mrs. Collins finds out that Carrie was asked to the prom, and Carrie is sitting on the bench, and it's actually like a role reversal. So usually in these situations, the student is all like, oh my God, like, this is great, I'm going to the prom. And the teacher is like, no, like, something's going on. But it's the opposite. Carrie knows, like, oh, they're probably playing a trick on me. And Mrs. Collins is the one who, like, props her up and is like, how do you know that,
Right.
So I understand she's trying to make her feel better, but I'm, like, yelling at the TV. It's like, what are you doing, You don't have to tell her it's a prank, but stop trying to, like, encourage this.
Right.
So,
Right.
especially because she knows it's a prank, because then she confronts the students afterwards. So I think I'm going to go with that moment. There's a couple by Miss Collins.
Okay.
You said at the end how she kind of doesn't help Carrie and she kind of throws the wrong person
Right.
out. But I'm going to go with her kind of just propping Carrie up, because I feel like that was a main contributing factor to her eventually accepting Tommy's invite when he invites her
Right.
to the prom, is because, that's maybe one of the only role models or, figures in her life that she looks up to besides her mom, who's crazy.
Right.
And she's telling her, like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. So I feel like that was, while
I agree
she
with
has
that
good
moment.
intentions, I was kind of yelling at the screen, like, girl, don't do that,
Yeah.
And it's so funny because in the end, that wasn't the prank. The prank
Right.
was from the other students, but it still kind of helped her get there. And I'm like, oh, why'd you do
I
that?
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's so I want to go with I'm a pessimist, unfortunately. So I want to go with Carrie, that she like kind of sees these people who are at the prom, they're all of a sudden being nice to her, like the PJ Souls character. It's like, girl, like, fucking get with it. Like, they're playing tricks on you. But I don't think that's fair to Carrie.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna go with it because I think she does go in with the best intentions, and I think that unfortunately she is naive because of her upbringing. So I don't want to have Carrie be a never split up moment because I don't think that's fair to her character. I'm also gonna
Watch
go
out.
with Miss Collins. I know. I also gonna go with Miss Collins, and I'm gonna pick the scene
Yeah.
where she throws Sue out that she doesn't, because Sue is literally like you said, so slow motion where she's like looking under the stage, like what's going on. It's like, girl, like I get that you don't want this moment ruined for Carrie, Miss Collins, but at least like as an adult, like you got to check in on what the student was looking into. So like she doesn't follow through.
Yeah.
She just dismisses Sue and then goes right back to clapping for Carrie. Where if she looked, she could have maybe not prevented it, but she could have done something about it. So I'm gonna go with that moment because like
Yeah.
every time I'm screaming at the screen, like, why are you throwing her out? Like at least look into it. Even throw her out, but still look into it. So I'm gonna go with that moment. It drives me fucking crazy every time.
I do feel kind of bad we picked her for both moments, but it does make sense
I
because
know.
she is one of the only characters that is trying to look out for Carrie and help Carrie. So
That's why I'm
that's
picking
what
her, yeah.
creates the dumb moments where you're yelling at the screen.
Right.
You know, the other characters are so fucked up that, you know, you're not really
Right.
thinking about it in that lens. So it does make sense that we would go with her. So yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, let us know who you agree with more. It's going to be on our social media channels. We'll throw that poll out.
Yes.
So look out for that. Okay, let's get to our scores then. I went first for the moment, so I'm going to let you go first for your
Okay,
score.
cool.
I'm really eager to see how high you put this.
Yeah, guys, like I said, this is just one of the horror movies that introduced me to horror, so I'm gonna try to like pull it back and be real with it. It's not one of like if we were talking about our top 10 favorite horror movies, it might not even be my top 10, but it's just ingrained in my heart because it's one of the first. And I do think that it's a classic and timeless story, so I think that means a lot. And I think Spacek is probably one of my favorite female horror performances. I'm gonna give it a 9 because it's just such a timeless story that you can watch from 50 years from now and still take away so much from it. So, yeah, I think it's a 9. I think it earned it. I think it's probably one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations. I'm not going to say if it is my favorite because, like Nolan said, we're going to cover our favorites one day, but it'll be in the top 5 or top 10 for sure. And I just think it's a very, very, very important movie to not even horror, to cinema alone. So, yeah, I'm going to give it a 9. It really works with me. And it doesn't overstay its welcome. I think it's like slightly over 90 minutes. And I think it's a good movie. It's a horror movie, but it's a movie that has something to say at the same time. And great performances, great direction. So yeah, I really, really I'm happy that my parents showed me this at a very young age because it stuck with me throughout my 30 plus years.
Like you said, it's tough for me too. I'm kind of in the same boat. It is an all-timer. It is, you know, in terms of film history, it's an all-timer. It's not a
Right.
personal all-timer for me though.
Mhm.
I do really enjoy this movie every time I go back to it. I did mention there were a couple things that I will call them nitpicks because they are, very small. Like I do wish kind of the middle of the movie was a little bit more memorable and it had the
can see that
highs
too,
that
though.
the end had
Yeah.
in the beginning. So it's tough for me because I'm trying to, it is so
Dude, the
important.
high points are so high.
I know. It's Sissy Spacek.
I'm fucking with you. I know. Do your.
She's so iconic, and I can't deny it. But just me personally, my score is going to be probably an 8.5.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
8.5.
So you're
I was
there.
debating on what put it in the 9 range, but I'm going to say 8.5 just because it's not, again, a personal kind of all-timer for me. I don't go back to this one
Mhm.
every year or even every couple years, but it is, every time I see it, it's like, it's ingrained in cinema history. Like you said, it is so good.
Agreed.
So good.
And I feel like also like when someone says Stephen King, like what's your favorite Stephen King movie or Stephen King? I like feel like there's so many, but like
It
automatically
and
something that
Carrie
pops in my
come
head
to
is
my
Carrie.
mind. Yeah,
Yeah,
it and
you know what I
Carrie.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, like
those are
Carrie
the
just
two
pops.
definitive for me. Yeah, not
Yeah.
necessarily my favorite, but those are the two.
Right.
When you think Stephen King adaptation, I think it and Carrie.
I feel like, and I think that holds a lot of weight.
Yeah.
When someone and it just pops in your head, I'm like, okay, it has to. So yeah, I love that score. 8.5 and a 9. All right.
Cool, very good. We've been pretty close these last few reviews. I think
Yeah.
there's been a trend. You've been a little bit higher than me on some of these, but we've been pretty close. We haven't like really disagreed on, except I guess Scream 3 was the biggest one, but other than Scream 3,
I think
the last
Scream
couple
3 was the
episodes-
last like movie we like.
Yeah.
Didn't just like we had a pretty like
We gotta
crazy range,
cover
but-
some Psycho, some Hitchcock. We'll get another
Oh, for
there's
sure.
difference,
For
but-
sure.
Okay,
Well,
great.
I'm happy that we finally did that, our first Stephen King adaptation.
Yes.
That was awesome.
Yes, definitely. So that is Carrie. I did promise you guys if you stuck around, I would announce our next
Let's do it.
episode. So this episode, Carrie will be releasing, I think this is the 12th. So the following week, March
Yeah.
19th, just in time for March Madness. Everyone I know goes crazy with their brackets. I personally don't, but I know a lot of people fill out their brackets. We're going to be doing our own never split up version of March Madness. We're going to be doing villains and final girls and final boys. We're going to be mixing them all up and putting them in a bracket. And we're going to have a big episode where we kind of, it's just going to be the two of us. We're not, unfortunately, we don't have time to do votes. We would love to do like votes for all of these matchups, but we just don't have time for that. So we're just going to
Right.
use the episode to go through our own little tournament of iconic horror villains and protagonists, and we'll see who comes out on top. We'll set the parameters at the beginning of the episode, and we'll take it from there. This is brand new for us, so we're kind of going to wing it. And yeah, if you have any ideas for some characters you want in the bracket, I'm still forming it now, and I'll probably still be forming it when this episode comes out. But yeah, let me know. Actually, no, I think we're going to be recording in a couple days, so I don't think I will be forming the bracket. But still, comment, let us know who you want to win the bracket. We're going to have all the icons in there. We're going to try to fit them all. I think I'm going to end up with 32 names of iconic horror people, so there's plenty of room to get all the your favorites in there, and I'm really excited to do that. It's going to kind of a new take we're going to do on the podcast, and I'm curious to see how it turns out.
I always love going to new territory in the podcast, so I'm very excited for that. We've like kind of tiptoed in certain things, but I'm excited for this. And let us know, like you said, we can do this again. Let us know what you want our next bracket to be, what our next theme should be. So even if you don't get to like pick some of the names in this one, in future ones.
Yeah, and let us know if you have any predictions who you think is going to win it all. And so it's going to be kind of like a face-off. It'll be like these characters, not the actors. It'll be the actual characters.
Right.
And we're going to have them face off in these hypothetical scenarios, and I can't wait. We're going to have anyone from Michael Myers to Sidney Prescott to Ash Williams to Chucky. I mean, we're going to get all the big names in there, so this is going to be fun.
Right.
So look out for that. But
I'm excited.
I'm
excited
too. Until next time, guys, thanks so much. This is the Never Split Up podcast. Again, follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube. Thank you for all of those subscribers, and we'll see you next time for our March Madness tournament. Thanks. Bye.